Who have been the most disappointing teams in Europe this season? There is countless examples from just this season because a lot of the big teams are underperforming.
The picture of the whole season, this is one big shit season.
You can look at examples in the Premier League, to Bundesliga, to Serie A, to La Liga. Why are these teams underperforming and can they rectify their season with the remaining games left? Well, here's my list of the disappointing teams. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Who is the most disappointing team so far across Europe? The example in La Liga for a team disappointing is Real Sociedad, because you look at the squad, you got the likes of Kubo, Zubomendi, Aramburu, you have a lot of good players. The problem for them is they have scored 18 goals in 22 games. Yes, they tried Umar Sadiq. Obviously, Oscarsen has been a little bit quiet this season. He's a very young striker, but that's the main issue with this side. They create the chances, they control the games, they simply do not find the back of the net. Compared to last year where they scored 51 goals in 36 games, not crazy numbers, but still quite good. And yes, you lose the likes of Merino to Lenomar, but you look at this team on paper, they should not be anywhere near the mid-table of La Liga. They are a better team, in my opinion, than Rayo Vallecano to Girona. So for them to be underperforming like this, Alguacil's got to take a lot of slack for it. Yeah, and they've been constantly finishing in the top 7 for the last couple of years. But yeah, right now, it's not looking good. And if they don't rectify their season, they're going to be in big trouble because then the Zubamendis will leave, the Kubos will leave, and then you could just see Real Sociedad really fall off a cliff. And can they rectify their season? I think they can if they just find the goal scoring from the Oscarsen. Obviously, Umar Sadiq left to Valencia and he's been a flop of a signing for them. So yes, they're going to have to get the goal scoring. They're still in the Copa del Rey. They're still in the Europa League. But if they finish in the mid-table, it's been a disastrous season for Real Sociedad. The Premier League has a lot of examples of teams that have been disappointing this season. Maybe one of them is Tottenham Hotspur. Is it unfair to say Spurs are underperforming this season? Perhaps because of the injuries. With the team they have, should not be 14th. Yes, you can criticize me and say, Michael, oh look, Van de Veen's out, Couto Romero's out, all these players are out. I get it, but still 14th? In the Premier League, okay, they're still in the Carabao Cup semifinals, they're still in the Europa League, and they're still in the FA Cup, even though Tamworth. So why are Spurs struggling this season? One, it's Ange being stubborn with his tactics and really defensively not having a game plan. Two, yes, it is the injuries. The injury list is crazy. There's been a lot of factors. They control the ball, they play such a high intense style of football that maybe could be the result of all these injuries. But also, like, look at the transfer window. Okay, in the summer, you buy all these promising young kids like the Archie Grays to Lucas Berval, who are very promising players. But Spurs played good football last season and they finished in the top 5. You think to yourself, summer transfer window? Let's get some ready-made stars. Let's take that next step to qualify to the Champions League. And instead, Daniel Levy, and maybe you could say Ange as well, they went the safe route and just went for the youngsters. Okay, then we get to the January transfer window. Vicario's out. Let's get Kinski from Slavia Praha. Good signing. And then they wait, and then at the last couple minutes, they get Donzo, who's a very good center back. I think he will fit perfectly into what Ange wants to do, and Matthias Tell. So yeah, maybe they sorted out some situations with this team, but I think Spurs are in a really difficult situation. If they don't get some players back, they're going to finish 10th to 12th, in my opinion. Okay, let's see what they can do in the Europa League. Let's see if they can win the Carabao Cup this season. Can they rectify their season? I don't think they're going to get into European spots, but if they can win a cup and they finish mid-table, but if they don't win any trophies, is it Ange out? I think Ange is still the guy, but you can definitely have some question marks about the manager. Stubbornness, I think his style of play is taking a toll on the players, but there's a lot of factors with Spurs. I mean, as long as Daniel Levy has a huge saying at this club, they will consistently underperform because in the transfer window, they're not ballsy enough. But maybe with the signings of Donzo and Matthias Tell, maybe it's a change in heart from Daniel Levy. Man City, they have been very disappointing. Yes, you can talk about the aging squad and Pep and all this sort of stuff, but for how dominant they have been for the past couple of years, 4 Premier League titles in a row, to right now, 4th place in the Premier League, Champions League didn't go well, out of the Carabao Cup. Okay, they're still in the FA Cup. They got Champions League. They got Real Madrid coming up. For Man City, this has been ultra disappointing. Okay, yes, they didn't spend a lot of money in the summer transfer window. January transfer window, they spent the money. So now they got to really bolster up and put on the big boy shoes and perform. Because what we've seen from them is aging squad. Tactics are not working with Pep. Yeah, you can talk about, oh, they're keeping possession, but the pressing isn't good. And what's the fundamental thing with a Pep team? Pressing high up the field and retaining the ball. And they can't do that right now. And every time there's a counterattack For the opposing team, it's a goal. It's a goal. Like, the defense has just been their downfall for the entire season. And they're giving up leads to Feyenoord. They're giving up leads to PSG, to Brentford, to any team basically in this world. And they just got smacked up by Arsenal 5-1. Okay, can they rectify their season? I think they can. I don't think any Man City fan expects them to win the Premier League. Can they do anything in the Champions League? In all honesty, no. I think if they went up against, say, Barcelona, in my humble opinion, I think they're going to lose to Real Madrid. Is that going to help them? Maybe they just need to focus on FA Cup and the Premier League and just secure a top 4 finish. And then when the summer comes, yeah, you know Man City are going to spend even more money. But, you know, it's been so disappointing. Yes, they're still in the top 4, but this is Manchester City. This is Pep Guardiola. If they were in second place, I don't think it would be such a disappointing season. But when you actually watch the performances of this team, you can tell they have fallen off a cliff massively. Has it actually been disappointing for Manchester United? Well, this is Manchester United at the end of the day. So anything below a 7th place finish would be a disgrace. But it's so bad. I mean, it is so bad for this team that Old Trafford is just a playground for everybody at the moment. They have fallen off like the Fast and Furious movie series. I mean, remember back in the day, everybody loved watching Fast and Furious, Tokyo Drift, and all that sort of stuff. And now, you don't want to watch it. Man United are the same thing. They are a disaster waiting. It is so bad that Ruben Amorim, I feel bad for the guy. Oh, he's naive, he's stubborn, he's just sticking to one thing. Okay, what do you want? Erik ten Hag to go away from his principles? I can understand the frustration for Man United fans because we've seen how glorious it's been in the early 2000s to the early 2010s. But right now, I don't think any player wants to go there. Yeah, they signed Dorgu. Okay, Dorgu is a young and up-and-coming player from Lecce. I haven't seen much of him, so I can't say if he's going to improve this team, but they need some athleticism. They need some attacking firepower down the wings, because obviously with Ruben Amorim's tactics, it's just fullbacks are so key to it, and the fullbacks right now provide nothing going for it. Where it all went wrong for them this season and why they've been so disappointing is they should have sacked Ten Hag last season. He won the FA Cup and they said, oh, it's good enough. We can't get the manager we want, so we'll keep Ten Hag. That was red flag number 1. Red flag number 2, you bought all these players for Ten Hag. The Xerxes, the De Ligt, Mazraoui's been a good signing. That's another red flag. Don't back the manager if you think you're going to sack him, 2 months or 3 months into the season? And the other red flags is they don't have money to spend. They don't. Okay, they spent money on Dorgu. They cannot go get those ready-made stars. For Man United, this is going to be a long and painful rebuild. Trust me, it's going to be like Arsenal, where in 4 years, you can compete. Man United fans got to just take the pain right now. I know it's harsh to say, but they've been so mudded for the last couple years that they just have to say to themselves, all right, we're going to have to take the L's at the moment, and then hopefully next season with Ruben Amorim getting some more players, then we can have a good season, because right now they're not going to do anything this season. They're not going to win the Europa League. If they go up against any competent attack out there, they will concede goals. FA Cup, maybe. Premier League, I mean, they would be fortunate to finish in the top 10. I mean, seriously fortunate, because you actually watch this team play. They're getting smacked up by Crystal Palace at home, Bournemouth at home, Brighton at home. Brighton just lost 7-0. They went away to Old Trafford and smacked them around. So yeah, it's really bad for Man United. Could you say they're disappointing? They finished 8th last season. They won the FA Cup, but it's even worse right now. I feel bad for Amorim. I think he's a really good manager, but he's been thrown into the pits of hell, and it's a matter of, are you going to come out alive after this season? 2 Serie A teams for me that have been super disappointing: Milan and AS Roma. AS Roma, it's self-inflicted. You trust De Rossi. Nope, he's gone after a month. You buy all these players in the summer, from Matteo Sule, Mats Hummels, Saud Abdulhamid, obviously Dovbik, all of these players for big money, Kone, and you don't stick to the plan with De Rossi. Okay, De Rossi, fine, maybe you didn't really back him as a manager, he's gone. Then it's Juric. I mean, that was a disaster waiting to happen. We all could see the first 2 games, car crash settings, absolute car crash settings, and eventually he gets sacked, and they have to bring in the man who can save any situation, Claudio Ranieri, and now it's looking a little bit more better. But this whole entire season, why it's been so disappointing for AS Roma is you spend all of this money in the summer. Like, AS Roma had a very big transfer window, and you thought to yourself, okay, take the step and qualify for the Champions League. It doesn't look like they're going to qualify for the Champions League. Yes, they're still in the Coppa Italia. Yes, they're still in the Europa League. I mean, in the Serie A, they're not going to get a top 4 finish, so it's been really bad. And I feel like a lot of their players, you look at Dybala, is he going to stay on? Most likely not. Okay, they got some promising players. I think Matthias Sule is a really good player, just not being given enough opportunities. Gone in the midfield, quality player. Mats Hummels, when he's been starting, I don't know why he wasn't starting earlier on in the season, has been quality. So yeah, maybe AS Roma could make a deep run in Europe, and maybe that's what Ranieri is thinking. Let's just make a deep run in the Europa League, try and win it. Serie A, we'll just rest the players. That's what they did against Napoli. So I could see that happening for AS Roma, but for me, it's been disappointing because you spend the money, you had a little bit higher expectations, and the board just did this all to themselves. For Milan, you finished second last season. Right now, you're in 8th place. Champions League, you lose to Dinamo Zagreb and don't finish in the top 8. I mean, we all could see the signs happening. When they hired Fonseca, they get players like Morata to Emerson Royal. I mean, they were not going to finish in the top 2 because then you see Napoli with Conte. Because when a team gets Conte, they're going to be stronger. So for Milan, I think they can rectify their situation. It's just, again, it's been the same thing as AS Roma. Self-inflicted. Poor decision making by the board with the managerial hiring and the players they sign. And again, they tried to rectify the situation by signing new players in the January transfer window, and now they hired Conceição. So maybe both teams, Milan and AS Roma, can have a strong finish to this season, and I think they've been showing more positive signs. I'm just really intrigued to see how it goes down for Milan, because Milan for me are a really interesting team with the signings of João Felix to Santi Jimenez to Kyle Walker. Maybe they can win the Coppa Italia, maybe they can be a dangerous team in the Champions League. Who knows? But Milan, I think their goal is really to finish in the top 5. And that's why the board said, oh no, we got to spend money and we got to fix this situation. Because they knew if they didn't fix that situation, they were not going to finish in the top 5. So for both AS Roma and Milan, I think they can actually rectify this season and have strong finishes. I think they're going both in the right track, but the early parts of this season might be their downfall. Dortmund for me have been disappointing because yes, you made the Champions League final last season. You finished in the top 5 of the Bundesliga, which was enough obviously to qualify to the Champions League. But everything has just been a mess. From the boardroom to hiring Nuri Sahin because he's friends with everybody in the board. It's been disappointing because this is Borussia Dortmund at the end of the day. You can say what you want, oh, bottle jobs, all this sort of nonsense. But when you actually watch that team play the last couple of years, they've been so close to winning the Bundesliga, to winning obviously the Champions League, so close on so many occasions, but they could never get it over the line. And now, 11th place. Now, granted, obviously the mid-table in the Bundesliga is very tight. Borussia Dortmund should be up there with Bayern Munich and Bayer Leverkusen. They should be, but instead, they're with the likes of Augsburg, St. Pauli. Come on now. Obviously, St. Pauli are 8 points behind. It's just like, how has this happened? Well, Nuri Sahin was a rookie manager, and it showed over and over again. He had no control in the changing room. Emre Can is just doing whatever he wants, and the dude has been so bad this season. They signed some decent players. Maximilian Bayer, obviously Guirassy to Anton. They made some decent signings, but the impact from the signings hasn't been there. Okay, Guirassy in some games has been looking good. Anton, Maximilian Bayer, got to give him more opportunities. He's a young player, had a very good season with Hoffenheim. Right now, he's struggling big time. I think they can rectify this situation because the Bundesliga is so tight in the mid-table, but they have to get European football, and they have to really get Champions League football. If they don't, that money-wise, because it's so paramount for some of these Bundesliga clubs with Champions League football or Europa League football, that if Dortmund don't get Champions League football, I mean, it could have a snowball effect for many years to come. So it's imperative that they get it. Can Niko Kovac save them? I'm not a big fan of the manager, but hey, let's give him a chance. Let's see how it goes. They're still in the Champions League. Hey, maybe it could be a good season for Borussia Dortmund. A good season would be 5th place, hoping it's Champions League football, and a somewhat deep run in the Champions League. But yeah, this has been super disappointing for Borussia Dortmund. But Borussia Dortmund are not the most disappointing team in the Bundesliga. It is Hoffenheim. Look at where they're at, people. This is not a situation where they don't have money. They spent money. They had some boardroom changes over the summer, and I think that's now affected this team massively. Then obviously they sacked Matarazzo. They bring in Ilse, who did a very good job with Sturmgrass, but you can just see, and obviously Kramaric talked about this a couple weeks ago when he did that interview with Archie Rintot, that we're shit.
About the club and the moment situation, probably I will get the biggest punishment in the history of Bundesliga.
He's not wrong. They are shit because they can't defend, and obviously they have a lot of injuries similar to Spurs, but it's still a good enough team. Like, to be in this position, and obviously they have to balance out the Europa League and the Bundesliga, and I think that's really affected them because they don't have the legs. And you see the style of football, they're just conceding goals way too easily, and there's no fight in this team. And I think it could get worse for Hoffenheim. If they don't salvage anything from this season, they could be dragged down into the relegation fight with the Heidenheim, the Holstein Kiels, and the Bochums. If they get into that, playoff relegation fight, they might go down. And that would be a shock to see Hoffenheim, who finished 7th last year, to right now fighting for relegation. But let me know your thoughts, people. Who's been the most disappointing team this season so far? And we'll probably do another video at the end of the season to really define who has been the most disappointing team in Europe. And remember to follow me on all the socials. You can find those links in the description down below. But have a beautiful day. Stay safe in this crazy world. Till next time. Adios.